Alrighty, everybody. Thanks for clicking on this video. James Cards FC here. Today, I'm going to be talking about a very important topic that is integral to participating in the soccer card market. We're going to be talking about how to sell cards, specifically how I prefer to sell cards, which I think is the easiest way to do it and will include you jumping through the least amount of hoops and saving you a ton of time and potentially making you more money on your sales. So, we're going to be going over exactly what I do, reasons for selling, a bunch of different things, but the basic idea of this video is how and why to sell in the market. So first, let's talk about when. Pretty cool that I titled this When, Where, and Why. We'll be going through all slides titled When, Where, and Why. I thought that was fun. We'll start with when. Alrighty, when to sell. If you have never sold a card before, people who have will always tell you it's way easier to buy than it is to sell. And this is 100% true. Selling can be difficult, but today I want to walk you through what is the best and easiest way to sell your cards, in my opinion. But let's briefly start with a popular question: when should I sell? This answer is going to be completely up to you and your goals in the market. I cannot answer this question for you. Nobody in the comments can answer this question for you. Nobody on Instagram can answer this question for you. It is all up to your personal opinions at the time and what your goals are in the market at that given time, and nobody can tell you what those goals are. So keep that in mind, but I'm going to go through some general rules and advice that I would have for when you should consider selling and about selling in general. So, for some general rules, you should consider selling, in my opinion, if the card has spiked in price well above your entry point in the short term. Say you bought a Darwin Nunez card for $10 and in 2 weeks it becomes worth $100. Probably a good time to take your profits and move on to the next thing, but you could continue holding. You could recycle this example for any prospect. If you bought low on them and you have a card that you bought for like $10 and it spikes to $100, probably a good time to take your profits and move on to the next thing rather than waiting and risking because you got a 10x. What else were you hoping for with that $10? Anyways, in my opinion, that's something I would look out for. And then the other case is there's another card where you would prefer to place your money at the time. Alrighty, then we'll move into the tough to swallow point right here, which is that no one cares what your entry point was. If a card goes down, the market price is the market price. So unfortunately, if you bought a card at the high point, say you bought a card at $1,000 and it's now $100, nobody's going to care that you got it at $1,000. They're not going to buy it for $500 just because you bought it for $1,000. They're going to buy it for market price. So with that in mind, don't hold just because your card is below your entry point. It is okay to cut your losses and move into something that you believe is a better play going forward. So for these examples, I brought out this hypothetical scenario case for you. So let's talk about this Neymar World Cup Prism PSA 10. Let's say you came into the market in April of 2021 and you decided to buy this card when it was $500 because you thought this was a good play. Maybe you didn't understand that the population report was going to go way up on this card. Maybe you didn't understand that it was a base card that was super high production. For any event, you made the mistake of buying this for $500 in April of 2021. It's now January of 2022 in this scenario, and the card has dropped to around $150 in value. You don't want to take a loss, but if you sell and you free up that $150, you could buy, hypothetically, this Darwin Nunez Green Obsidian rookie card. So at the same time, in January of 2022, I apologize as my dog is getting very excited about this scenario. At the same time, in January of 2022, this card was $150 and this card was $150. If you would have just taken your loss here and bought this instead, the Nunez is now worth $1,000 and the Neymar has continued dropping to $100 now, at least at time of recording, which is July of 2022. So, just an example scenario of why it's okay to cut your losses and move into things with that capital that you think will do better in the future. Don't get so caught up in what your entry point was. If you believe there's something better that you can do with the money that is tied up into that card, go ahead and move on, take your loss, and continue forward. I have taken so many losses, like an insane amount of losses. I've taken a lot of wins, but I have taken an insane amount of losses as well. If you transact enough, and if you transact like I do, I've done thousands of transactions at this point, which is ridiculous to think about, but I've lost on hundreds. I win on the majority of them, but you will still lose on hundreds, and you will still lose on a percentage of the plays that you make. So there's nothing wrong with taking a loss, cutting your losses, and moving into something you believe in more for the longer run, shorter run, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to cut your losses. Okay, let's move on to where. This is the most important part of the video. I want you to study this, my students. This is how we move cards. So, this is the James Cards FC method for the hands-off market participants. Your goal here is to move cards as fast as possible for market price by getting them in front of the most eyes possible. The rules here are that raw cards are going to be listed for buy it now and auctioned if they don't sell, and all graded cards are going to be auctioned. I don't like haggling over prices for graded cards, just let the market decide. This is also why I don't like selling on Instagram, because you're going to get into a bunch of DMs arguing over $20, $5, 5%, 20% here and there. I don't want to do it. We're just auctioning them off. Let the market decide where the price of these things are, and if you don't want to do that, just don't sell. It's, at least in my opinion, it's that simple. For raw cards, we're sending everything we own to ComC. Of course, there are cards that you cannot send to ComC because they're worth less than $1. Honestly, I don't know what to do with those. I highly advise not buying cards that are worth less than $5 or $10 because then you're going to get really stuck with them if you ever have to try and move them. But in any event, if we're playing in cards that are worth at least $5 or more, which you should be doing, you need to be shipping all your raw cards that you want to sell to ComC, in my opinion. They will charge you $1 per card for a 2-week ingestion period, and they will charge you 50 cents per card for a 16-week ingestion period to get it on their platform. The cards will be housed in a vault in Washington, and they are posted on the ComC website as well as cross-posted on eBay, which is the key here. You can send these raw cards to ComC, and they will cross-list them on eBay, so your raw card sits on ComC, and it's also listed on eBay as well, so people on eBay can see it, and people on ComC can see it. And that's amazing because now you are conquering 2 platforms at the same time without you having to do any work. Now, ComC users can also make you offers on your cards, so if you list it at market price, somebody can offer you 20%, 25%, 50% less than what your ask is, and you can negotiate with them through ComC. You can't do that on an eBay, obviously, because your card is cross-posted onto eBay, so you're not going to be engaging with eBay buyers, but you're engaging with ComC buyers in a offer system for your raw cards. So that is what's going on ComC, and if you list at or below comps, things will sell and you will get offers. But of course, people will ignore if you're overpriced. Now, the reason that we're not sending our raw cards to auction is for what I'm going to talk about in this next part. We're going to be using consignment for our graded cards. If the consignment that you choose takes on raw cards, I would not be opposed to moving raw cards in lots via eBay consignment, but the consigners that I use do not accept raw cards. So let's talk about graded cards. We are going to be only using eBay consignment or PWCC. If you have something that is super high-end, $10,000 or more, maybe even $50,000 or more, I would recommend using either Golden or PWCC Premier. Just negotiate with both those different teams and do what you need to do to move that super high-end item. But if that is not the case, just use eBay consignment and PWCC. PWCC for me is a specific case when you're selling pre-modern or vintage cards. They seem to do better on that site for a variety of different reasons. So send those to PWCC. Anything modern, eBay consignment is going to be your best friend. For eBay, I use Probstein. I know, boo, Probstein sucks, shill bidding, blah, blah, blah. I've used Probstein for over 2 years now. I have done thousands of transactions with them, which is ridiculous to think about, but I've used them for 2 years. I can count on my hand the number of times that I've had to get something relisted because somebody didn't pay for it. It would take 2 hands. It's probably happened 10 or so times, but eventually they just rerun it on auction again and it gets paid for. In my opinion, what's going on with Probstein is the sellers themselves of the items are shilling their own auctions and then not paying for them so they get relisted. Since I am not engaging in that behavior, my stuff almost always sells. Now, I'm going to say it's like 98 or 99% of the time it sells. There are cases where things have to get relisted, but they always eventually sell, and the vast majority of the time they sell on the first try, and there's no funny business going on with Probstein, at least from what I've experienced with them. So, but with that out of the way, there are many other consigners. There are 4 Sharp Corners, there's DC Sports, there's PC Sports Cards, who I've used as well. They are very good. They just take longer than Probstein does. So, tons of consigners out there, but we are going to be using consignment, and we're going to be using consignment only when we're auctioning and selling our cards. So we're going to be shipping our cards to these consignment companies, and they're going to handle the entire selling process for us from photos to shipping. They will take professional photos. They will scan the cards. They will list the cards. They will do descriptions. The PWCC is the best at this, by the way. They do great descriptions and titles and all that kind of stuff. But they will handle literally everything for you, from payments to shipping. They will handle the entire process, and all you have to do is sit at home and wait for them to send you a check. It is the easiest thing in the world, and it takes none of your time. You just send them the box, and they do all the work. Perfect. Amazing. The only issue, and people bring this up all the time, is that the consigners will charge a small fee for their service. But this is a secret that I, for some reason, don't think a lot of people know about. It's usually less than what your eBay fee would be if you tried to sell on your own. So, for example, if you try to sell on your own on eBay, I believe your fee that you're going to take on your auction is between 12 and 13%. I haven't done that in years, but I think it's still around that point. Whereas if you sell via Probstein, depending on the price that the item ends up selling for, your seller fees are going to be between 10 and 15%. If you want to haggle over that extra 2% that you could have got from selling yourself, you're doing a lot of work to get that extra 2%. You're having to take pictures, you're having to list the item, you're having to ship the item, deal with shipping, and go to the post office, all that fun stuff. Just send it to the consignment, let them do all the work, and let them send you a check. This right here, please study it. This is the easiest way for you to move cards in the market. In fact, the hardest part of this is the raw cards, which if you can find a consignment that wants to take them, be my guest, go ahead and do that. But for graded cards, if you want to move graded cards and you want to move them in bulk and you want to get market price, please, please, please use eBay consignment, use PWCC, and save yourself all the stress of having to deal with trying to take offers on these things, listing them on Instagram to a small audience. Just let the consignment people do their job and send you a check, and breathe easy knowing that you're probably going to get the market price for your items in minimal effort, and you can just move on to the next thing and focus on what's really important, which is moving that money into your next play. So enough of the where. Please study this. Let me know your thoughts down below if I'm completely wrong on this, but this is what I've been doing for the past 3 years. Okay, let's move to the final slide here, which is the why you should be selling. So, you need to sell in order to create a cash flow. If you only buy, you'll just continue pouring money into items that you'll never see a return on, except in the long run or whenever you decide you need to sell in the future. So, in my opinion, it is best to have a starting card budget and work to build on that using only card money. So, a very basic example of this would be you give yourself a $100 budget, you buy 3 cards for $25 each. We'll call them Card A, Card B, and Card C. You send Card A to grading at SGC, and this will cost you an additional $25. It's $23 if you go through a group submitter, but factoring in shipping on both sides and all that fun stuff, we'll just call it $25 and assume this is a good example. So you now have 3 cards for $25 each, and you sent one of them to grading for another $25. That covers your $100 budget. You're going to sell Card B for $20. You took a bit of a loss on it, but you moved it. You sell Card C for $25, so you broke even on it. And then Card A comes back from grading, and you sell that for $75. Add those all together, your budget is now $120, and you start the cycle again, going from $120, trying to build that up to $150, going from $150, trying to build that up to $200, going from $200, building it up to $250, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so after a few years, if you're fortunate, like myself, you start really adding all that up, and you create yourself a really nice cash flow for what you're doing in the market. So the last point here being that if you didn't sell anything, you would have had to put more outside money into this market, whereas with the method shown right here, all your money is still based off that original $100 budget. You didn't pour anything else in, and you added, at least at the point in the cycle that we're at right now, an extra $20 to your budget going forward. And so you would just keep cycling through this and going and going and going as you go about the market. So with all that being said, probably a bit more ranty and rambly than I initially anticipated this video to be. I thank you guys so much for watching. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you have other selling strategies that you like to employ, let me know. If there's a way I can make my hands-off selling strategy even easier that I missed, please let me know, because I'm all about trying to move things in the market as quickly and as hands-off as possible. So, all that being said, like, comment, subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video.